So we have collectively taken, I think last count was 545 some odd online business owners through our mental clearing process. The first case study that we did for the first 186, where we tracked them meticulously after 30, 60, and 90 days, an average of a 78% increase in monthly revenue, 82% increase in focus, 42% decrease in fear. And Albie, you have been the catalyst to, I think, probably like the majority of onboarding and going through our charge inventory process, taking people's very comprehensive onboarding forms, extracting the items, basically these mental and emotional, what we call charges, out of the mind, getting them on paper and putting them in a hierarchy of here's what to clear first, second, third, fourth. And man, it has been a fucking wild journey. And this is the first time we're able to actually sit down and fucking talk about it in a recording setting. So I'm super stoked, man. But real quick before we dive in, introduce yourself outside of just bulletproof entrepreneur coach guy and mind mechanic. What's your when you're not saving Gotham at night? What do you do during the day?
Man, it's an honor to be here. It's an honor to have been here for so long, dude, and to have seen this grow. I'm also an entrepreneur, business owner. I run a video production company in Houston, Texas. Started with my wife. We were actors, filmmakers in LA. Once you start having kids, as you like, things change.
Yeah.
And so it was nice to get back home because I am a Texas boy. But as an entrepreneur, I ran into a lot of really just myself. And that's whenever I found you. And we'll definitely get into that. But I have 3 children. Those are my whys, my North Stars.
How old? Give us some ages.
Yeah, we got the youngest is a boy, 3. Then I got my middle daughter, 5. And my oldest daughter is 8. And then Vanessa, love of my life. Been with her since we were 14. We're 38 now. Overall, I've enjoyed my life. I enjoy my business and I enjoy being here. But I'm still a fucking human being. And I still have fears, doubts, and just the whole being a human aspect of things that creep in. And I will say I'm hella excited and grateful to have this method that I can just get out of my own way. Like I don't need to pay thousands and however much people pay for therapists or all that. It's like I became my own because of a simple process that you put together.
Yeah.
In a nutshell, that's who I am.
Yeah, I'm in a nutshell. So let's rewind back to 2020. I believe it was September. It was the beginning of September. Might have been like September 5th, 2020, when I had first opened the doors to like the beta of our program. In fact, I went back, I stumbled across our kickoff call.
Oh shit.
And watched pieces of that. And man, you're like a totally fucking different human being from then.
Oh man.
I don't know if you can remember back to that point.
Those were COVID days.
Yeah.
Like, everybody's scared as shit.
Yeah. Do you remember what was going on in your universe? Reorient me from your perspective. What was going on there?
Man, my business was just like starting to take off and boom. And then I was getting it to a place where I just lived. And then COVID hit. And then my video production company, we would film commercials for clients and your marketing material, monthly marketing material. I was considered a now non-essential. And so now how do I go make money? How do I provide for my family and all that? So of course I had just charges building up, these mental imbalances, a lot of fear, a lot of uncertainty. And I think that's the main thing that I lost was certainty. That I think is the one thing that drives every entrepreneur to, I guess you can say, like what they consider success or they consider happiness. And everybody wants certainty. That's what we're selling people to. And whenever I lost it, I was in a really desperate place in my life where I didn't know. It was just such an unprecedented time. Where do you turn?
Yeah.
How do you even how do I make money? How do I even provide? And that's when I found Bulletproof Mind. I actually found you through, we were both in a course creator.
Yeah.
And then you had shared some wins and I was creating another course. And I wasn't having wins, but I was learning from you guys. And then I saw you had shared some stuff. And I've been like a proponent for mindsets early in life and just a student of it. Had life coaches, had all those things. Never anything that really made like a huge jump. I had the clarity and that kind of stuff. But then whenever I found Bulletproof Mind, I gave it a try. And this was before Entrepreneur. And immediately I had this huge win. And it's crazy. And I still, even 5 years later, can't define how this shit happens. But whenever like you clear these huge charges, these huge mental blocks that you've just been, it's like an open browser. You have all these open tabs open. You just start closing those out and all that energy you allocated towards that, you get it back. And okay, like where do I now siphon that towards, or where do I put that towards? I cleared this huge charge that I had on a family member that at that time you would think fear. That was the first fear.
Yeah.
I cleared a fear charge running out of money. Next was, I was like, okay, cool, that was fun. But what's the one thing that's just been on my mind for the past 3 years? And it was a resentment that I had. And I was like, okay, let me clear that. Because I've said this before. It's like, how many arguments have you won in the shower? So if you've ever found yourself in
I'm
that
still trying to
position-
figure out why all these fucking people are in my shower. You know what I mean?
Get out of here. But
Not even good looking.
so I cleared that, and man, it was after I was done. It was a nice little. It took about 3.5 hours. Not typical, but I just wanted to like give all my energy.
Yeah,
to
you
that.
went real thorough on that one.
Super thorough.
Yeah, because usually it's 30, 40 minutes
Yeah.
max.
Oh yeah, I've gotten it to a point where I can knock it out in 15, 20 minutes.
Yeah,
of what I'm
yeah.
doing, depending on the charge, really. But after I cleared that huge weight, it was like a huge weight off of my shoulder. That happened on a Friday. And remember,
Did you do the miracle letter on that one?
and I did the miracle letter.
Okay.
I sent it, and of course, it stirred shit up, but mainly for the other members, like my wife and her sister and them. But we were able to finally all. After the dust settled, by Monday-ish, we were all able to finally have a very tough conversation that needed to be had for years.
Would you use the tough conversations framework for that one?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah,
sure.
nice.
And my wife, because I gave it to Vanessa, because
Yeah.
she's the one that had to have a bigger one with her sister, just related to all that. That was on a Friday. I cleared all that, had a huge epiphany, was able to forgive myself for all the things. And by the way, the thing I was resenting them for was the very things I was doing.
Yeah.
So
Funny how that
if you
fucking
spit it,
works.
you got
eh?
it type
Yeah,
of thing, right?
yeah.
And one thing you always told me early on is that what you complain about, you were also doing, right?
Yeah.
And so that was a really bitter pill, but the sooner I swallowed it, the gains I started having. That was Friday. Monday, after all my clients that I had on retainers had paused early on that year to COVID.
Yeah.
That was March, April. This was August, September. Out of the blue, they came out of the blue and said, hey, I don't know what's going on with the world. Let's pick our campaigns back up. And all my money just came back in like that.
Yeah.
So immediately I was like, oh man, there's something to this. I need to be a part of this.
Yeah.
And that's whenever I reached out to you and you're like, hey, I'm starting this Bulletproof Entrepreneur.
Yeah.
And I was like, dude, I'm in. I got to do.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. You had gone through that when it was a low ticket, when I
Yeah.
was just selling it as a course.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
dude.
totally forgot about that.
Bulletproof Mind,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Holy shit. Yeah. Okay. That's wild. And then on our onboarding call, this is when I niched down to specifically online business owners.
Yeah.
On our onboarding call, I think, or maybe it was shortly thereafter, you're like, yeah, dude, like I really love filmmaking, but I want to be an emotional intelligence coach.
That's what it was.
And I'm just like, you're in, sir.
But even before that, though, like I just started using the tools that were
Yeah.
in the program of what my North Star was, where I wanted to get, my ultimate goal.
Yeah.
Again, I'm in video production. We're not talking mindset.
Yeah.
But I just followed the steps that were there because you have a daily task list. And
Yep.
you track. What you track will grow. And so I tracked. I realized I was skimping here. I was not paying attention to this area. Then the next month was much more thorough. Third month, I was just checking things off. And that's when you approached me. Hey, I need a mindset coach, a head coach. And
Yeah.
I was like, oh shit, this shit works.
Yeah.
Follow the rules. Just follow the material that was provided. And it just made it so much easier for me than to try to go out there and you think mindset. And at that time, it's like, oh, it's very woo or something. But it's how we operate. Your mind it holds all the lens of how you see the world through. So
Yeah.
if your perception is limited to your lens, then let's switch the lens out.
Yeah.
And that's how then right away, boom. So that was the other confirmation for me where I was like, I can lean all the way in now and know, hey, when you clear your shit, when you clear your mind, you just have clear wins, clear goals, clear revenue, clear profits.
Yep.
And then whenever you do the other work, you can reach your goals. But it's easy to get sidetracked. But when you have something you just track daily, it's like your 80-20 type of thing.
Yeah.
You'll get there much faster in a year with just the blinders on
Yeah.
than flip-flopping. Do I really like this? Is this who I am? Or do I want to help these people? And I've
Yeah.
seen it tons of times. I've been part of that too, but it's incredible how far you can go in just a small amount of time with hyper focus, as opposed to some people spend their lifetime not getting there of just that kind of, there's just holes, they're leaking buckets type of thing.
Yeah. It's bizarre to watch, speaking of the business growth gains. Like when I launched this as a beta, like it was theory based on the concepts that I had been taught and what I went through with my mentor for 2.5 years. The theory was that when you remove the energetic resistance between you and basically interacting with the rest of the world, theoretically that opens up more energy to flow.
Yeah.
And money is energy. Everything is energy, and it flows on a fucking communication line. And so the things that get between the things that cut a communication line is this resistance. Now that sounds very woo-woo, but the practical application of it is all of it is just a perspective, right?
Yeah.
So if we change the way that we look at something, proverbially, the things that we look at change.
Yeah.
And the example that I always use is like when people are like, all right, how the fuck does this work exactly though? I'm like, it's just a simple set of questions. You just have to ask the right questions about the right thing in the right order, and you can shift any perspective. And they're like, what the fuck do you mean? Like, just like you have prospects that either talk to you or your team, they come to that call or in the DM chat or however the fuck you sell. They come to that with a perspective of, I'm not buying or I'm very skeptical.
Yeah.
And so how do you change that? You don't just tell them to buy. You don't just tell them be less skeptical.
Yeah.
That's just like telling somebody to be positive, right? It doesn't fucking work. So you have to get them to sell themselves on it. And once they've sold themselves, they don't go back on it. And so how do you do that? And they're like, we ask questions in our sales script. I'm like, exactly.
Yeah.
And when you ask the right questions in the right order about the right stuff, you can get your prospect's perspective to shift from one that says, I don't know, I don't think I'm buying your shit, I'm skeptical, to here's my card, this is exactly what I need. And as long as you do it thoroughly, you don't have buyer's remorse, in which case, in so many words, it's permanent. Like they bought, they're in, they're doing the thing. And it's because you asked them the right questions in the right order about the right stuff, and they changed their own perspective and they didn't go back on it.
Yeah.
And so it's like so in other words, the woo explanation is we cleared the resistance between the two parties. If I'm sales guy and you're prospect and I ask you the right questions, we break down this invisible barrier that's here, and that allows the flow to happen. Flow of value from me to you and flow of money from you to me. Both are value, right?
Sure.
It opens up the flows of value. And so when theoretically I launched this thing, I'm like, I know that in order to introduce this to the niche that, you know, is our online business niche, because that was my background, and quite frankly, most of my list was online business owners at that point. I'd been the lead gen guy.
Yeah.
And I also knew after launching that lower ticket version of it, like it only attracted the crystal wielding housewives, as I so lovingly refer to them, that are just not my ideal target audience.
They wouldn't take further action. That's where
And it's really challenging from a business model perspective to justify a return on investment. So I'm like, I know I need to prove that this grows a business.
Yeah.
I know what it's done for me, but I'm like, I need an overwhelmingly convincing case study. And so I'm like, I don't know, like it was a total experiment. So to have for the first 186, and then we stopped being quite as meticulous, but 78% increase in income just by going through and removing these resistors that just allow the flow of thought, of communication, of value, of knowledge, and just release resistance. So it's wild how it's all connected, because you clear a resentment charge on a family member and a business deal comes through.
Yeah.
And we see it like just in the last week, the things that we've seen posted is like fucking crazy. And so I'm wondering, as you've taken people through this, what your experience has been like watching that. Now it's been hundreds and hundreds of people, and you've seen them on day one, and you've watched them progress and just start clearing shit. And I don't know what you see some of our testimonials, and we see it every day. It's I cleared a fucking guilt charge on something I did when I was 10 years ago, and like money comes in. What the fuck is that? So what I'm curious from your perspective.
Man, you said guilt right there. That's the first thing it set off. Was one of the things I noticed early on was that guilt, it became a wealth suppressor. Whenever we'd have our members, even myself, if there was anything that we felt guilty about, whether it was in the past or whether it was we were being like maybe not necessarily dishonest, but we were leaving out information or anything like that, if we felt guilty about anything, we will then feel unworthy to receive. And that's whenever we start doing the self-sabotage shit. Yeah. So perfect example was one of our members. She was a coach.
Yeah.
But she was also the first of her family to start practicing like Islam. So she was wearing like the hijab thing.
Okay. Yeah.
And her family gave her all kinds of flack for it. And,
yeah.
And so in a way, she used that as a way to say, fuck you, I'm going to do this anyways. But then when she was going on to these calls, she didn't know why it was happening. She couldn't send the invoice to the clients. And the clients were like, hey, send me the bill. I need to close this out. And she just couldn't, and she couldn't figure it out. So we had to do some work there. And just come to find out, it was because she was using the same thing as it was originally as a self-expression tool, but then it became this weapon. But then she was carrying that weapon with her into the calls, into her coaching, where she's supposed to to be helping people. And then she realized that was what was blocking her from, she was feeling guilty. And so she couldn't do that. So she had to just finally accept, like,
Feeling guilty of what exactly?
feeling guilty of, like, in her subconsciously, she was still saying fuck you. This was her fuck you
Okay.
tool, basically.
Yeah.
And so she had to either just own it completely for herself and not to reclaim her power from her family. I forgot to mention, her fiance had left her because of it.
Wow.
Oh yeah, it was a big issue.
Initials are AP on this one?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
All right. Yeah, I know
um,
who you're talking about.
And yeah, exactly. And then we finally got to the bottom of that. She was able to resolve that and fully own it as not a tool, as a weapon or anything, but as a self-expression, to finally be at a place where she can finally love herself, her business, all the stuff that comes with having a good life. And then her business, boom, started taking back off. And that's just another one of those things where, one of the times when I realized just how powerful your guilt, if it's unaddressed, it becomes a wealth suppressor.
100%.
Just like from like the mindset perspective, if I approach this from a scientific view, we can only see 20% of, like, from infrared to ultraviolet, right? And then 20% of the whole hearing spectrum. So if you're telling me that of the entire availability, I'm only getting like 10 to 20% of that, so my perception is limited, wouldn't that make my reality also a limited reality?
Yeah.
So if I can expand my perception, then I can expand my reality. It's like taking a cup from the ocean and saying, there's no more left, there's no more information, but get a bigger cup, get a bucket, get whatever, because that's where all the information is there. But if I'm limited here and I say, I block out everything else, like a lot of times what people will do with mindset work or inner work or any of that shit, I'm just shooting myself in the foot completely, because there is more out there.
Yeah.
But I'm limited to what I can receive. Get a bigger bucket.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's just the amount of stories that we have on not just the guilt, but and how they're all interconnected. It's just so bizarre that even today, like, I still 3-4 days a week, that's how I start my morning, whether it's regardless. It always sets up the day to where it's just like a release valve.
Oh yeah.
And it's not in a way to where, like, when I first built, I'm a really logical thinker guy. And so it's funny that, like, when I didn't realize until getting into this industry and getting to just be around the higher level people in this industry, how mindset stuff and people were viewed.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize, like, how skewed the perception was, and, like, really, like, how important the work that we're doing is because most advice is either you push harder through and just work, and, like, the results will make you feel better, which we know that's not fucking true.
Yeah.
Or it's like the Band-Aid stuff, like a short little quick, whether it's not that any of this is bad, but it doesn't pull it out by the root. It doesn't actually shift the perspective permanently to where you're like, yeah, I know for sure I see the real truth, like a meditation or an ice bath or a fucking affirmations or whatever. That's what got me when I was working with the guy that I worked with. I'm like, this is like systematic.
Yeah.
It's literally mathematical. It's because the universe is all made, like, there's whether it's the Fibonacci sequence or everything is math.
Oh yeah.
Everything is math and can be quantified, and energy can also be quantified, measured, and quantifiably removed. And so once I saw proof of that, I'm like, oh, okay, that's interesting. And then when I went to go and apply the work that I did with my guy was in person, obviously. So I'm like, I got to modify this to make it, like, available without being here, like, if I'm going to have a scalable business. Or I got to charge $1 million a person.
Yeah, for real.
Which that's a tough sell. Like, anyway, when I was putting this together, one of the pieces of research that I did, and I recommend anybody do this in terms of, like, their market research. Now you can use probably AI, or you can use ChatGPT, like deep research feature, to probably completely expedite this. But you go to Amazon and you look at all of the books that are written, like, on your subject, and you look at the bad reviews and what were people complaining about, whether it's Eckhart Tolle, The Power of Now, Think and Grow Rich, and whatever it is. They're like, it's not giving me something practical. It's just, think about now. It's okay, I'm here, but I don't get it. Like, I still got fucking problems. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so I'm like, okay, if I can make it, I've already got a systematic version of it. Now I got to digitize it and just make it to where it's very practical and it's trackable and it's quantifiable. And when you do something, it's a complete experiment. You don't know how the fuck it's going to go. So we made up our own measuring system to a large degree. But man, being able to see the quantifiability of something versus I feel better temporarily. Like, how many people do we know that we've seen come through that are like, yeah, I already know mindset. I already do mindset stuff. I already do fucking meditate. Like, I know. But then you get out of the meditation in the morning and 2 hours later you get a fucking email that sets you off and it ruins the rest rest of your day. And now you're in
Yeah.
reaction mode. It's like your meditation was temporary, dude. So we got to clear the charge on receiving emails that we don't want. Because if we avoid something, we bring it to us. Universe operates on a reverse vector system. I talk about it in this little bookie poo here, which you can get in the link in the description if you don't have it already.
is.
But the universe operates on a reverse vector system. That which you want moves away from you. That which you don't want moves towards you. So that's why wanting something, love Eric Thomas, but wanting something as bad as you want to breathe will actually make you fucking less successful.
stressful.
There's a difference between want and intention. And I go pretty deep on that in this book, but it's coming from a place of I'm going to create versus reactively, compulsively, I gotta have it.
Yeah.
And so it's just wild just watching people come through and really see really the truth. Like seeing that's all we're doing here is we're allowing people to uncover the truth for themselves, which is what is the thing that really makes them go, oh shit. The realization, the epiphany I had in doing the work that I did with my guy was like, oh shit, I'm the one.
Dude, yeah, exactly.
Right. And so
You're also the one that's in your fucking way too.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the hardest part.
Yeah. What do you tell me more about that?
That's what, like, back to wantingness and intendingness. Like, I love our infatuation tool because that's what we're doing. We're identifying. It's not a crime to have wants. We're entrepreneurs. We have goals. We have ambitions. It's the neediness of it, the identity that we attach to. Once we achieve that, then I'll be this guy or that girl or whatever. If we don't get it, then we now have a grief or a depression and whatever. But by approaching it with that intention, I can only attract. That's the one thing I learned that, like, the law of attraction didn't teach me thoroughly.
Yeah.
Because the law of attraction didn't work for a lot of people because the word action is in the word attraction. You want to think and grow rich kind of thing. I want the Ferrari, but I'm just going to think about it.
Yeah.
But my thoughts can only attract other thoughts. So by getting out of my own way, removing all that icky, that needing, that wantingness, and then just being logical about it and being like, okay, if I want it, then I can reverse engineer and I can make these many sales and then this many in this price point and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's an actionable step that I can take as opposed to I'm going to think and grow or whatever.
Right.
And so there's a lot that you gain from that, like a lot more power that you feel in the whole, you feel less of the, like, I'm just a bystander in this game of life kind of thing, to where, like, you can actually learn, hey, like, it's a flow. I can learn to go with the flow and still carve out my slice of the pie and not need to fight other people for it or try to get validation from somebody else. But that whole process of, so back to the thing where, like, I can only attract, so my thoughts can teach me, attract another thought of how to break this down.
Yeah.
And that's really, like, one of the most powerful tools that I was able to utilize and realize, man, like, I can actually I could be okay with not even getting this.
Yeah.
And it's just,
that's when it's the analogy I use in this book. I talk about there's the needy guy at the bar.
Yeah.
It's like, he's not going to get laid. It's not attractive.
Yeah.
And so the guy who, like, treats women like shit, I'm not advocating this, but that's more of an attraction. It's more of a game because the physical universe is a game. And so if you're playing offense, the other person's going to naturally play defense.
Yeah.
And if you're just like, you're playing defense, the other person's going to want to try to score on you.
Yeah,
right.
sure.
It's just, so once you understand it's literally how atoms are put together, there's a tension between positive and negative ions that hold the physical universe together. And that's literally, like, when you feel heavy, it's an imbalance of charged ions that when you ask the right questions in the right order about the right stuff, you're able to literally shift ions to where the weight is then released. And, like, it's people are like, oh,
that's the weight of my shoulder. They say that all the time.
Exactly.
All the time.
Exactly.
It's like that analogy too. It just reminds me of, I forget what the movie is, but, like, Ryan Gosling and Steve Carell, where Steve Carell just got out of a divorce and Ryan Gosling is, and, like, they're at the bar and it's just like Ryan Gosling just does his thing.
Yeah.
One analogy I remember you mentioned, like, years ago, where it was like, what happens whenever you try to go and pick up your dog or your cat? They're gonna run away from you.
Yeah.
Well, when you're just doing your own thing, they come to you.
Yeah.
And that's one of the biggest realizations I had. And whenever I saw it in play and in action, I realized, damn, if I'm the main thing, like the common denominator of all my challenges in life, because I am either impatient, I don't like open loops, like I want things to be done ASAP so that I can move on to the next. That's not how life works, especially once you throw kids into the mix or all that stuff.
Yeah.
It doesn't all just fit within your recipe. That's why I think the biggest, whenever people come in and I would do their charge sheet for it and we would list the charges they should clear, one of the first you ones are usually a resentment because the quality of your life is dependent on the quality of your relationships.
100%.
So work on your relationships, the quality of your life goes up. So back to my story, my resentment, I worked on the relationships in my life and everything got better for everybody, not just for me,
Yeah.
but then for my sister and her sister. And then it reverberates, right? That's how, if I can fix one thing in my life, then I'm going to fix what's at the center, and that's mindset, because that ripples outwards.
Yeah.
Carry that into my personal life, into my business, into everything, into how I handle my relationships. So I always would recommend whenever people would come in, I'd always have them clear a resentment charge, because everybody has that one person that's in their life, whether it's mom, dad, spouse, whatever.
Team member, business partner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And for me, it was also like my brother, my own brother. I remember one of the first things you had me do was have a tough conversation.
Yeah.
So there's the charge clearing mechanism is great. That's the vast majority of people need that because we're resistant to go straight to the core.
Yeah.
So there's more than one way to clear a charge. You can go straight and have the tough conversation. It's scary. You like, how do I prep for that? Whatever.
Clear fear charge on it first.
Exactly. Don't go in just blind with a loaded gun kind of thing.
Yes.
I cleared that on my brother. I went in and had this tough conversation, and which since then it gave him permission to finally have one with me years later, where you think you're good, but then somebody might have a resentment towards you. You're unbeknownst to me. He's like, hey, I need to have a conversation or like clear charge or whatever y'all talk about. So I'm like, what's up? And then it just opens up. It lays like generational trauma. Like the work I'm doing is to stop the ongoing miscommunications.
Yeah.
And I had that tough conversation with him. I was like, hey, I know to you I'm your little brother, and there's this stuff that we've approached, or you may bash on me or whatever, but I've been taking it personally, and then that's affecting how I perform. Then that's how I perform in my business.
Yeah.
And then now it's like you're pulling food off the table for our children. I have to put a stop to it. And he was, damn, that's just what dad did to me. So it's like, I tell all of our members, whether you address your baggage or not, it's going to fall on somebody, because energy cannot be created nor destroyed. It has to be transferred. So whether I address it or it's going to fall onto my spouse, my children,
or it's going to come out in the form of a bodily illness.
And that,
which stress is the number one cause of all illness, as we know, and scientifically the medical community agrees. The question is, how do you de-stress? And it's just a quick little fucking whim ain't gonna do it. Because you still have the beliefs.
That's it.
And because beliefs create thoughts, create actions or inactions, and inactions or actions create results. So if you don't have the results that you want, it's because you're doing something in a way, or you're not doing something in a way because of how you're thinking, and that stems from your beliefs. And breathing is not going to change your belief system, but if you ask the right questions in the right order about the right stuff, you can change your belief system about anything. And at least what we teach is there's two polarities, positive and negative. People are like, oh, I want to be positive. We don't want to believe all positive because that's unrealistic. And so we want to be centered. It's what Buddhists call the middle way, right? How there's been explained in every religion and philosophy in a different way. But ultimately, we just want to look at objective reality, not colored with rose-colored glasses and not colored with red fucking glasses, right? So we want to get ourselves to let's look at objective reality, because most people are not looking at objective reality. In fact, they're afraid to look at objective reality, hence why we need to fucking clear fear charges. And so it's people are like, how do I know? Like, I don't know. Do you have the results that you're looking for in your life? Do you feel how you want to feel? Are you making what you want to make? Are you living how you want to live? If the answer is no, it means you have actions or inactions that aren't serving you, which means you have thoughts that are creating those actions or inactions, which means you have beliefs that are creating those thoughts. And so we got to change the beliefs. Otherwise, we're just going to be trying to force our actions and fucking discipline and fucking checklist ourselves. Like, it's not going to work if you still believe that fundamentally. And how we know the mind works is everything's connected. So you'd be like, how is a resentment charge on my fucking third cousin punched me in the mouth when we were 3 related to my client acquisition? Because it gets stored as a past experience in the mind of people are bad and dangerous, so I should avoid them. And that gets connected with guilt of not standing up for myself when I was 3 and punching his ass back. And now we might overcompensate with an infatuation of now everybody is a mouth to be punched. And that's where you get a lot of people who teach, quote, mindset stuff. If we're going on like 3rd, 4th, and 5th dimension thinking, 3rd dimension, the 3D reality, it's the dimension of chaos. It's just where we can only move stuff.
Moving matter.
Right. Then we get to the plane of competition, where we're aware we're able to move matter, but now we're in the band of antagonism, and we got to fight to get what we want. We got to fight to get what we want. We know that, and I outline in this book, that band of antagonism is not objective reality. It's a made up game. And that's fine as long as you know that.
Yeah.
Most people are subconsciously fighting for or against something that usually isn't even their idea.
Yeah.
It's an idea that their mind has fed them, and how, if it's a mind, it's an idea of your mind, or if it's actually you, is how you feel about it.
Dude, and
Where are you on the fucking
that's it.
tone scale, right? Are you in antagonism? Are you feeling guilty? Are you feeling depressed? Are you feeling like you really fucking want it? If so, that ain't you. And so when you discharge that, you're like, oh, as Brandon Carter so astutely says, I feel like James Bond on vacation all the time. So it's like you're just looking at objective reality from a calm, cool, collected standpoint. And you're just going to have, in order to really come from there, you need to believe different things about a lot of different shit. There's hundreds of these things that get stored in our mind. And if you're a human, you have a mind and it's got a bunch of shit in it.
That's the thing.
And so it's either going to come out, you're either going to, I liken it to, I think it was the Batman Forever movie. Remember that one with Val Kilmer?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know if that was one of our VHS on repeats as a kid, like
sure.
the 20 videos that you got that you constantly cycle through. I remember that at the end of that movie, there's, of course, this bomb that's got to be discharged and the thing. And so it was in something in Gotham City. And if it was going to blow up, Gotham City was going to blow up. And so he had to get the bomb out and get it and explode it in a controlled environment. So he dropped it in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean with his little fucking flying Batmobile thing. But we took that bomb that needed to go off and we put it in a controlled environment where it wasn't going to hurt anybody. But when we go and clear charges, I look at it as, okay, we're going to go into a controlled environment and we're going to bring stuff up to blow it up for good. In other words, change the belief system on it for good so that later it doesn't show up when we hope it doesn't, which is when it always shows up. It gets triggered. And that's just because something happens in present time that reminds us of the time we got punched in the mouth by our fucking third cousin when we were 3, and all of the rejections we've ever had, all of the failed dates, all the fucking teachers who told us we sucked, all of that just comes up at once and we go.
Yeah.
And so it's, if you want to get rid of that, we got to discharge all of those things in sequence, and we can do it in a controlled environment versus an argument with your spouse, versus snapping at a client, versus dismissing a team member.
Oh, yeah.
That's when it actually, or versus pulling in an illness.
Yeah.
So that's what, like, how I am looking at this. It's like we're blowing this shit up in a controlled environment so that when we're out there in the real world, it doesn't affect us.
Yeah, exactly.
And when I first understood that concept, I'm like, that's a fucking superpower. You can do anything. If you can do that, if you're coming from there and nothing fucking triggers you, that's why I like the Matrix reference of the bullets coming at you and he's fucking just stopping them. No. And then he just calmly fucks up the agents, right?
Yeah.
Just like,
Yes,
it's possible. It's going to take a second. Like, you've accumulated this stuff over a lot of fucking years.
Yeah.
And so it's,
I have to remind people that if it took years to build a certain
yeah,
charge,
dude, it's been fucking, you've been here for 4 days. Relax.
yeah,
You know what I
it's
mean?
unrealistic that you're going to knock it out in
Yeah.
a session or 2, whatever.
The great news is, though, we've gotten it to a point to where it's pretty obvious. It's like, dude, I know if you go and clear that charge right now, just take the next 30 minutes, 45 minutes to an hour as like the first action item, just like you experienced. You're like, whoa.
Yeah.
Now you went deep, of course, on a fucking 3-hour fucking really.
It
blew
didn't
that
feel like
shit
3
up.
hours though, because
Yeah.
again, I'm answering questions and I'm just going back. And it's what's interesting as you go through the process, you will start to, as you get the ball rolling, so like working out, you start to get into this rhythm of things. As the rhythm, like you'll be going about your day, even not in a session, but then you'll be going about your day and you'll slowly suppress memories will come up.
Yeah.
And that's, you could be walking your dog and you'll remember the teacher in 2nd grade that made you embarrassing in front of class or something like that.
Yeah.
And you're like, could that be why I'm afraid to get
Mrs.
on
Bannon.
this?
That was for me. Mrs. Bannon, 2nd grade.
I think
teacher.
we all-
She was awesome, though. I like Mrs. Bannon.
Yeah, she sounds like a lovely lady, but I'm sure we all have some experience like that. I had the very similar thing in 3rd grade at a school play or whatever.
Yeah.
So that whenever I became an actor years later in LA, that was something I was carrying around. I
Mm.
had these tools, which I've given to all my friends, but when you're not receptive and you're not ready for it, then it's just going to fall on deaf ears.
Yeah.
So I still recommend whenever we have our new members, give it to your spouse, let them, y'all clear together.
Yeah.
Because you're going to be harboring resentments.
The
or
one
whatnot.
thing that I've noticed, especially recently, because we've messed around with just people are like, can I just buy the tools? Can I just get the tools? Can I just get the tools?
Yeah.
It's like, we tried that. The problem is I could give you the keys to a fucking Formula One car.
Yeah.
It looks fun to drive. You'd fucking crash and probably hurt yourself and others. And so it's like which is why we're back to what works, man.
Listen.
It's like we gotta go through, like, I can give you, without the understanding of how the mind actually is put together and what we're really doing. I tried to give a verbal version, but it's in here. We have YouTube videos, trainings and shit on it. But you have to first of all understand the mechanism.
Yeah.
Once you understand how the mechanism works, now you have more context. Next, when we get the whole inventory through our onboarding process and we really start to extract, okay, here's what it is for you specifically. And then it's doing the right things in the right order. Because, and I've seen this where people are like, yeah, I just didn't know what to clear. And then they get overwhelmed with that. And then they feel retarded for fucking not knowing what to clear. And then they're just like, throw it out. It makes total sense, which is why I don't like, I'm not just going to give you that.
Yeah.
But that's, I would say the tools and processes, yeah. But I would say the 80% that really makes the difference is that custom inventory through our onboarding process of how we extract that. And it's like, you get to see your whole, I didn't realize, because I had been through this process and like I was the one on the, I'll just say, receiving end, and I didn't really see the whole comprehensive inventory that the guy I worked with, I just didn't dawn on me as to how valuable that was actually going to be for people. And so when people started seeing, holy shit, that's like my mind on paper.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Whoa. There's 200 fucking items in there, and that's just scratching the surface. As we say, it's like peeling an onion, because you'll clear a fear charge on losing money, and then you'll realize that there's a whole new resentment charge that you didn't even initially think of. And it's just like, you just keep fucking peeling the onion and peeling the onion and peeling the onion. And eventually you'll get to a point to where not only do you think in this way and you default to, this is just your new belief system, your new thought process. But I've seen now, after hundreds of cycles of this and trying it different ways and just giving people like the gist, right? The gist is actually more harmful, because they're now have a new failed attempt at something.
For sure.
And now they'll feel guilty for not doing it.
Yeah,
they'll probably have a
disappointed.
resentment charge on me or the tools or whatever. And they'll have an infatuation on, this is going to be the quick fix, right? All of these things, you got to do the right things in the right order about the right stuff. And we got to do it in a very systematic way. And you can only have that type of a viewpoint of knowing what that is if you're sitting in one of our chairs, right? And I've just found like how important that actually is. Like, the tools are just tools.
Exactly.
I could give you a hammer, and I can give fucking Michelangelo a hammer, right? I'm sorry, but you're going to lose that battle. You're going to lose that sculpting battle. You know what I mean? No offense to your sculpting prowess.
Hey, he's a cool dude.
Yeah, heard good things. But anyway, I'm just curious what you've seen in going through doing all these charge inventories and seeing that. Like, what have you seen as some common threads even among a lot of online entrepreneurs? What do you see are like the main things? It's like, yep.
Man, it's because the online world you're inundated, you're bombarded, and you have to be on socials because that's where a lot of the clients are. But if you're not using social as strictly a tool, like a research tool, and you get sucked into this scrolling, then you're going to get the like hella shiny object syndrome is going to hit you hard, because then you're going to see this other person, look at this other person and their jet setting and whatever. So usually I've noticed infatuation charges are like some of the first ones that they'll do.
Yeah.
Because they want to hit whatever, 100K months, a million, whatever their goal is, or they want to be this person. They want to be the guy or the girl in the space. Or again, there's nothing wrong with that. But if you're needing it and you're attaching your identity to it, there's nothing more devastating and more grieving than loss of an identity. So whenever somebody takes that from you, you're going to go down a spiral. And so that's what I try to like address that. And the cool thing is, back to law of polarity, along the way, we realize if your infatuation is, I would say, just money, I want $1 million, then on the scale of the polarity, then there's going to be a fear around losing money. Right? You can always piggyback on those. So I usually get them to address their biggest fear and then piggyback on what is the fear of that, and then what's the opposite infatuation of that.
Yeah.
Because we just need to address what's the unknown. Whenever we can start slowly address it and paint it, then it's less scary. You know? And then you can like, really, damn, I've been stressing over this the whole time. I have a plan. I know what to do here. But it's always like that elusive, we have in the Western world, we have an insatiable appetite. Like, got to be more. I got to get this, this. And if that's not rooted in like an actual like North Star or a purpose or what really helps you express that drive or that purpose of your contribution, and it's instead just anchored in like ego, that's where most of them come in. from
Yeah.
the ego standpoint, and I let them know the things that you're chasing, like what weren't these, or the things that you're now that you're chasing, but let's just look at where you're at right now that you're not complaining about, but you're not appreciating really. Isn't this like all your problems today? Wasn't this what version 1.0 of you used to dream about? This was where you wanted to be. You just didn't realize that every new level has new devils.
Yes.
And it's going to come with its own baggage or whatever. But this is like the very things that you've been dreaming of in the past. And so like, why not allow yourself to experience that? And by clearing this stuff, I've learned life is a process of elimination. The more I'm removing from my to-do list or to my schedule or like charges and all the stuff that's on my mind, the more I remove, like the happier I am, because I get to the core of who I lost along the way, because I'm just buried underneath layers and layers of charges.
Yeah.
The cool thing is sometimes you can address a charge that, like for me, that first fear one, it did good. Okay. But then it's like a game Minesweeper.
Yeah.
Like from the whole game on the desktop.
Windows 95, motherfucker.
Yeah, dude. You know how like you'll select a box and half of the grid just disappears?
Yeah.
It's like that. Like you can clear a major, like the root of so many other charges, and then you have this huge mind blown or whatever. It's one's not better than the other. Like base hits are just as good of a home run every now and then. We still want consistency, but show up to the mental gym.
Yeah.
I have to always remind them, go to the mental gym. You have to do this regularly. You have to create a habit out of it.
Yeah.
Because habits are going to dictate where you go. I don't care what you do and what new thing I'm just going to look at your habits, and I'll let you know if you're going to get to where you're going.
Yeah. It's back to so that would be the action, right?
Yeah.
That creates the result. So
exactly.
we got to create new thoughts and new beliefs. And so that's why I'm trying, at least my intention is to remind people that the most important thing in your entire life is your mind, literally everything that you do. You can say, oh, my health is more important. Oh yeah? What dictates your health decisions?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. You take it wherever you go. It's you. And anyway, that I agree 100% with everything that you're saying. And it's wild to watch, man. And
because your habits are your frequency.
Yeah.
And if we're going to talk about science or whatever the hell you want to talk about, it's an energy level. So of course, like what you're going to output is what you're going to get back.
Yeah.
So if you're going to just add on a new thing on the back end for like shits and giggles, but not really integrate it into your habit, into your belief system, then it's just going to give it a month. It's going to go to the wayside.
Yeah.
Pretty much everything else we've done in the
business. The good news with the way that we've designed this is that when you go in and you clear your first charge or two, it's impossible to not have a new belief system, or at least around that item, which then I'll just say, to use language that people watching this would probably understand, it positively reinforces that behavior, because you go, oh shit, this thing, whatever it is,
feeding a bad habit
or whatever it is that you do, it's impossible to see something the exact same after going in and clearing just one. It's physically impossible unless you just decide that I'm gonna make sure that no matter what happens by the end of this, I'm gonna go, yeah, it didn't work for me. Like that. That's the only scenario where we've had maybe a handful of people that there was one guy kicked out of the original group of 20 because that was his intention. He's just like, nah,
intention was set.
And I'm just like, yeah, this because you fucking just set the intention to lose.
And he started losing like in his personal life too, because I keep up with him because we have socials. It was for like the first few weeks following afterwards, and man, dude ended up losing a lot in his personal life. So
that's what happens. It's like, and especially with like my private clients that I speak to regularly in a one-on-one fashion, like because at every level, I got private clients doing $1 million a month. I got like at every level this exists, and I have to remind them that the great news is now you know this and you have these tools. The problem is now you know this and you have these tools, because with great power comes great responsibility. And so if now that you know better, so to speak, but you don't do better, you'll start to take yourself down, because you will be every opportunity of, oh, I know I should do this based on this new belief that I can't unbelieve now.
Yeah.
Fuck, I see the truth of the damn matter, and I see this. I should fucking do whatever, confront the thing, have the conversation, do the action, even if I don't feel like it. And then you don't apply this, you'll just accumulate guilt charge after guilt charge. And then what what'll happen is you'll try to ignore the fucking guilt charges and just be like, no, that's not happening.
Yeah.
And what'll happen is things will start to go fucky.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then you'll wonder why. And then the conversation will come back to you're just not doing the fucking things you to do. It's like,
That
so there's no
conversation-
avoiding it.
Oh yeah, I had to have that conversation a lot. And
Yeah.
that's what being on this in my seat. What becomes a bummer for me is to see, man, now that your eyes are open, up to a certain point, our conditioning, the way our parents taught us or trained or raised us, it's not our fault. But then once we're aware of it,
Yeah.
moving forward, it's our responsibility.
Yeah.
And if we just default to like the randomness of life, shit's gonna bump into you, and then you're gonna be hella reactive.
Yeah.
So like you have to proactively carve out whether it's your routine or your new habits.
Yeah.
You have to do that. So
Yeah.
that's why I always get them. If they're not going to do it for themselves, then we have to get them realigned with what is their overall North Star, what we use.
Here's
whatever.
to add to that, like how I look at that and what I believe that is really what makes all of this happen is as beings, I believe that we're the ultimate cause, right?
Yeah.
And regardless of what religion, they all say it differently. The
Sure.
kingdom of God was within man, that
Yeah,
whole
all that.
thing. You're it. So let's just assume that you're the ultimate causation. Because if you decide that even if that's not true, if you decided that it was true, you would now at least have a belief system that supports you being causative over life rather than effect to
Exactly.
life. And so if you're causative over life, that is an empowering place to come from. And so deep down, everybody knows this. Whenever I speak or you and I talk to people, it's like, how many of you guys know you have the next level within you?
Yeah.
Every fucking hand goes up. Nobody's, I don't think I fucking. If you don't, I can't. Maybe you don't. But everybody other than this guy.
Take notes.
Yeah. Yeah. You just get that guy a fucking snack pack. But everybody knows this innately. And so when we're reminded of things, all these tools do is remind you of what you already
They
know. They
remind
don't
you,
feed,
yeah.
they don't feed you any new information because you don't need any new information.
Man, that's the rub right there too.
That is it. That's what she said. So you don't need any new information. What we need to do is remember who the fuck we really are. And so that's all these tools really do. And so when you're reminded of who you really are and you're like, shit, but then a situation arises that if you haven't cleared whatever that trigger was, which is why you got to keep doing this, is because like picture infinite scenarios. Like we got to clear any,
Yeah, man.
you got to be willing to experience all of it comfortably, calmly.
Yeah.
And so that's a big ask, which is why we got to systematically go through and essentially clear the shit. In other words, rewire how we perceive the external world coming at us so that we're not effect to it and we're cause over it.
Yeah.
And so this allows you to go from effect to life and things to cause over life and things without fighting and grinding and punching.
Yeah.
And it really, because it removes essentially that energetic barrier. And it does it just by asking fucking questions. And it really does. The guy that I worked with, there was actually a way of measuring electric resistance as if it was a circuit of electric current. So I won't get into that because it's a little bit too scientific and
Sure.
it's not what we base it's based on our shit, but like we don't have fucking
Just
that
a
tool.
layman's
So
version. Yeah.
yeah, but the long story short is like when you feel heavy, it's actually measurable electric.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It's electric charge that is imbalanced negative ions that are literally making up your immediate experience. And so when you discharge them, fucking you feel lighter because you actually are measurably lighter. And they're electric, as is everything in the physical
Yeah, man.
universe. Protons, electrons, they are charged electric particles that make up the atoms that make up matter, energy, space, and time.
Yeah.
And so literally, like, to go quantum physics on it, you're rearranging the particles of the universe, and practically you're just asking questions, just like you help your prospects rearrange their particles of the universe so that they can remove the barriers to their flow.
Oh yeah. I love how simplified it is.
Yeah.
That's just you're just answering questions.
Yeah.
You're not traveling on the other side of the world. You're not resolving all your like childhood traumas,
Yeah.
stuff like that with these conversations or whatever. You're doing it in a way that is just answering questions.
Yeah.
And I've in the past I've hired all kinds of coaches. I've done so much. That's why this was the easiest, most practical
Yeah.
way for I'll say an entrepreneur, but really everybody. We all have minds.
Yeah.
We all got to get out of our own way. And this has been the easiest way that I can implement into my daily routine.
Yeah.
I can carve out 20, 30 minutes or whatever so that I can set aside time for that.
Yeah.
And those that come to the calls and they're like, man, I can't carve out. It's not a time matter. It's a priority issue.
Yeah. Yeah.
you don't quite understand yet just how powerful this is. And you're setting priorities based on a fear response. Oh, I need to respond to my emails first thing. I need to check my phone the first thing.
Yeah.
But what I've learned in my life and now, as I've cut things out, I've simplified things, I've been less reactive. Back to we're being cause over everything rather than effect.
Yeah.
I find myself less reactive. And so this is what life was supposed to be like.
Yeah.
And an interesting experience was my wife and I and the children, we went back to LA, which was a very stressful time in our lives.
Yeah.
Like,
Anytime you go to LA,
yeah, living there for 7 years as a broke actor, all that stuff in the film industry.
Yeah.
I still have scars from the experience. Going back there and now seeing all of our old triggers, our old mindsets, our old spots from this new calm, cool, collected. This is how, if you're going to live in LA, you should be like,
Yeah.
where you're carving out your space in life, you're carving out your income and the mindset so that you're cause over all that shit now.
Yeah.
And it's just like with Neo's bullets. I'm just like, nah.
Yeah.
I don't. And then when I go on social and somebody else tries to feed me a new shiny object, I'm like, no, I don't need that because it's out of alignment with who.
Or at the very least, when you, 100%. Or at the very least, to add to that, when you see when something comes at you, you can objectively investigate it.
Yeah.
It doesn't even, it's not even avoid it. It's just like, I can look at it without being affected by it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I can understand it without feeling like, without getting sucked, because all marketing is, as marketers, all they're doing is pushing one of these buttons on these polarities. They're pushing on the desire button or pushing on the pain button. And so we all have to do that as marketers. It's just as marketers and business owners and salespeople, which all of that gets looped into one because we have to do all of those things, right? It's really easy to get sucked into thinking that you need something that you don't need because of the language that's used in an advertisement or a video or a piece of content. I'll give you a perfect example. One of my one-on-one guys, I had a chat with him yesterday and got a lot going on. He's doing like 150K a month, but he's just stuck and stagnant. New client, not making as much profit as he knows he can make. And I'm like, all right, cool. So what's the number one thing on your mind right now? And he's like, I know I should be making more content. And I'm like, all right, why is that? Our ads are stagnant. Okay, tell me about this. So he starts talking and telling me how he's pulling in like leads that are not great quality, but his sales team's closing them anyway, and he's getting not the greatest clients in the world. And that causes fulfillment issues and so on and so forth. And I'm just like, so remind me again of your offer. And he explains it and it's relatively broad. And I'm just like, okay, why? And he's talking to, it was something around, not without giving too much away, he's doing a lot of things for a lot of people. And so offer creation, community creation, some done for you stuff. It was just like a lot going on. And I'm like, okay, who's your number one client? And I'm like, yeah, give me a name. Tell me what type of business, where were they at when they started working with him? Where'd you find him? And he starts telling me about this guy. He's like, yeah, this guy was making 10, 20 grand a month. And he was a content creator, had 500,000 followers online, but he was only making 10 or 20 grand a month. And he was just monetizing it like a fucking idiot, basically. And I'm like, so what is the number one thing that you did that moved the needle for him the most? And he's like, we just basically had him package up a new offer and have a couple different offers in a particular sequence. And then basically created a system to funnel his existing traffic into this offer. And now he's doing 150 grand a month. And I'm just like, okay, so you previously were listing all of these things that you did, but really what you do best is you create offers for content creators who have a huge following, but aren't monetizing it very well. So I'm like, everything that you listed, all of the problems and stuff that you just listed, I don't see as the problem. The reason your ads are not performing without even looking at your ad account is because you have a fear of saying no to people that you could help.
Yeah.
He's like, we could do this for this people, these people, that people. And I'm like, yeah, you could, but that's why you're speaking to everybody and you're attracting shitty people. Yeah. If you only spoke to this guy, and I just riffed on an ad based on what he shared with me, I'm like, imagine if that was your ad. You'd only attract these fucking people. And the LTV for that client, he's been with me for 3 years. He spent $250,000 with us. And I'm just like, imagine if all you did was have like 20 of them. Everything you just listed listed will go away. And your infatuation of needing to create content, you don't need to create more content. Yeah, fine. But if you're good at running ads and you have a target avatar that's very hyper specific, it's not an ads problem. It's not a content problem.
Yeah.
It's because you have an somebody told you. You got bought into this idea because somebody told you. Are your ads not performing? It's you don't have enough content. You got to be posting this many reels and they got to be doing this. And he's like, fuck, more work. So now I got to do this. And he's feeling guilty, guilt charges that he's not doing it. He's got infatuations that he needs to do it. And when those two things argue, you do nothing. And then he has a new belief system that keeps him stuck. Oh, I can't fucking do this. It's too much.
Yeah.
And so all of this stacks up. And I'm like, it's not an adding problem. You already know how to run ads. You already have successful clients. You already know what to do. You need to stop adding more. And we need to start removing the shit in your mind, first of all, that's making you have the beliefs that you have, that makes you have the thoughts of, I need to do more content, that makes you have that fires off the infatuation charges with needing to create content, which, as we know, when we need something, we push it further away. Yep. So that's going to cause him to procrastinate on it, and he's not going to know why. And then he's going to have the result of, I feel like shit, I'm stuck, and I'm not doing what I know I should be doing.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's what's happening. So my advice has nothing to do with your fucking business. It has to do with clear the infatuation charge on content, clear the fear charge on narrowing down your audience, right? And he's like, it's funny you say that because what we do with our clients is we really have them hyper niche down. He's like, damn, I fucking knew it. That's always the thing. If you're doing at least 6 figures, you have 10, 20, 30 successful clients that you've worked with, and they're like, thanks so much. That was great. You've already generated leads. You've already closed deals. You already have testimonials. You already know how to fulfill. You don't need more information. You've done it. Now we just got to do more of that, and we got to stop getting distracted by what we see online and what we get fed with from out there, whether it's a fear of the market crashing, whether it's a fear of missing out on this new fucking strategy, whether it's an infatuation with getting to $1 million months, $10 million months. Like, those are not most likely goals that you need, that you're actually yours.
Yeah, exactly.
You just heard it and thought that sounded decent, and like you just went with it. And now you think you should, and you feel guilty that you're not. And all you're doing is stacking all this shit in your mind. And it's just like, you don't need more. You got to just clear the shit. And so when I told him, I'm like, first charge you're going to clear. I forget exactly which one it was, but it was let's assume it was an infatuation with content, or maybe he brought something else up that I'm like, yeah, clear that first. But just do that. If you do nothing else, like just 3 to 4 days a week, just make sure clear fucking a charge.
Yeah.
Like, you will make a different decision, because by the end of that process, you come up with your own action steps based on your new perspective. So you have a brand new belief. It creates new thoughts, and you literally have just one new action that's the right action, because now you're not looking at things from this path, as we call it, the lens, the anger or the fear lens, or the depression lens, or the infatuation lens. Yeah. Now you're making decisions from objective reality. And so I shortcutted a little bit for him, but if I feed you the answers, it's not going to stick. It's got to be your own origination. Anyway, this is literally like her buddy. You know what I mean? And
everybody, especially that infatuation, dude, that's the first thing people will jump into.
Yeah.
Because it's like a faster tool to use, but it packs a punch.
Yeah.
When you have time to sit down for the fear, because fears are typically going to be a little bit longer, because we break it down by sub fears.
Yeah.
But that's the one thing, like, people will come in with these crazy infatuations. And so I'll ask them the next week when they come on a call or something, did you clear that? And if they say no, and then I just see a pattern here, it's like, okay, then, well, if you're not showing up to the gym, the mental gym, if you didn't show up to the regular gym, you can't expect gains. Same thing with here. This isn't a one and done. I like to always look at it like in life, anything. Like these buckets you got to fill. Yeah. There's a good book, I forget, like Life Buckets or something like that. You got to fill them up. The relationships, the business, income, vitality. But at the same time, they're leaking. There's always a hole. Yeah. So you're never done. It's not a one and done. Yeah. Whenever it's done, it means you're dead. Like, your mind, you have to carry it everywhere in all dynamics of your relationship.
And then you're just going to reincarnate and fucking do it again.
And just do it over and over again.
Bring that shit with you onto the next.
I can't say it like enough times. It's been the process of eliminating. People will come in, I think I'm doing this. I also do this in the morning. I do this. And I'm like, whoa, bro, you're doing already. This is before you even eating breakfast or anything. Like, you're doing too much already. You need less things to do.
Yeah.
We're still human beings. Like I remember I was even speaking to Melissa, like even about parenthood and stuff. And as a parent, you worry, like, my kid's getting too much screen time. Are they getting enough this or they getting enough that? And at the end of the day, what me and Vanessa have learned, it's what makes me less crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
What makes me a better version to where I can
Yeah.
process this shit. Then that's where I have to draw the line. Like,
Yeah.
where's my sanity or whatever? Because I need to put myself first, kind of thing. Right?
Yeah.
And so same thing with the business and with the charges and stuff.
Yeah.
You don't need more shit. You just need that one thing that actually moves the needle further.
100%.
And at the end of the charge, there is an action item.
Yeah.
Back to the thing, law of attraction and stuff. Like the word is action is in there for a reason.
Yeah.
And the more you do these, you start to create the neural pathways. You start to create the same habits, the same patterns, the same thought process. Now this becomes your personality. Your personality becomes your personal reality.
Yeah.
You can't tell me you're not going to get to the destination you want, but you can't just get there by shortcutting the work that you have to do.
And at the very least, like, this can go a number of different directions, but when we use the word want, right, and talking about clearing infatuations, it's like people are like, if I stop wanting the goal, I won't get it.
Yeah,
right?
not at all.
It's not at all. So maybe speak to that a little bit as to your perspective on that.
Back to the thing about like neediness and then intention.
Yeah.
If you're in the neediness boat still, you're effect to life. You're in the reactive mode. You're only going to react to the emails that come in or the texts that came in or the new ad that made you feel like shit because you're not doing 6 things before you wake up. But by intending, have a whole, that's cause over life.
Yeah.
I'm carving out time. I'm carving out like action items that I do every day towards something. Like that's actually, I can digest that. I can chew on that. The unknown of the thinking, I'm like, somebody give me a break.
Yeah.
That sucks. You might get it every now and then.
Yeah.
But what's more effective? Like you can't scale one, but the other one, I can do that. That's how I got into this position. Remember?
Yeah.
I wanted to be a mindset coach. How is so lofty to me, but I just followed these steps. And if I do that over and over again, the first month I had to create carve out a new habit for myself, new tasks, action items for myself. And then it became a habit. Then it just became my personal reality. So then of course I'm just going to, we have this lesson, be, do, have.
Yeah.
You have to be the thing that you want so that you start doing the things.
No, I'm saying be.
Yeah.
Be.
Yeah, exactly.
Bulletproof entrepreneur. It's a nice little happy accident for those of you playing along at home.
Exactly. So but people have it the other way around. They're like, once I have this thing, then I'll start doing it. I'll be that person. But it's the vice versa.
Yeah.
And so that comes with a whole level of charges that we got to clear. But again, if you don't do it, you're handing that down to somebody.
Yeah. And I think the question, especially for the achievers, if you're still watching this, for the achievers, what I found is the more you've achieved, probably the smarter you are in general. And so the smarter that we are, the easier it is to justify why a reason for doing something or not doing something and explaining it to ourselves. And so that's why I just go back to when you're just like, if you're watching this and you're like, I don't know if I need this, so here's the thing. As soon as one goes, okay, I need this, the smart, achieving, ego-driven individual will not, as soon as they admit that there is a fault and shit to get rid of, now it will basically, they think that they're admitting to weakness, basically.
Oh, no, it's not an admission.
And so, but that's what the mind, it's now I'm admitting that I'm not as good as I have been trying to convince myself that I am. And so anyway, all sorts of shit fires off. But at the end of the day, here's what matters is what the fucking results are.
Yeah.
And because the results are caused by your actions or inactions, regardless of your ability to explain why they were justified or not justified. At the end of the day, we look at the fucking scoreboard.
Yeah.
We look at the fucking scoreboard. Look at your bank, look at your income, look at your net worth, look at your bank account, look at just how you feel. It's your scoreboard objectively.
Yeah.
So you can explain away why, if I just do this thing and I'm just has to stop. Like whatever it is that you're telling yourself, if your results aren't there at some point, you're going to have to realize that what you're doing or not doing needs to change. And the only thing that's going to change that is how you're thinking. And the only thing that's going to change that is by believing different shit. And that's scoreboard. Just look at the scoreboard. Sure. Look at the record. The record tells the whole story.
For real. And we talk about being cause over life rather than effect. Everything in your life is your fault. Whether you look at it at a higher realm, like I chose to come into this life and experience a full human experience, because I believe we're spiritual beings having a human experience, or whether it's like you just didn't have the conversation or you hired the wrong person. It's easy to push blame elsewhere, but then that's whenever we lose power, we lose control, because now we're effect to it rather than cause. Now, like the difference that I have to explain to a lot of the newer members is it's not an admission of guilt. It's just an admission that I want to take full responsibility so that I can change the outcomes.
Yeah.
And if there's a resistance of some of the newer members that like, I don't know if I can carve out the time or whatever. If you're not going to do the work now that you understand it,
Yeah.
then where else are you not showing up? Where else? Because how you do one thing is how you do all things kind of thing. So
Yeah.
then where else are you not showing up? So let's start to instill these new habits. If you're not willing to do that, then entrepreneurship probably isn't for you.
And oh, by the way, speaking of showing up, the number one, especially you're running a high ticket call model, number one fucking issue for people in this industry, especially right now, show rate.
Yeah.
So if people aren't showing up for you, where are you not showing up? Not just for others. Where are you not showing up for yourself? Where are you not showing up for others? Wow.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to admit that. They want to think it's a fucking email sequence. They think that fucking email sequence is the answer. It's fucking not. It's really fucking not. Like, it's wild, but it's not. I'm not saying don't have email sequences. I'm saying that's a Band-Aid fix for a real, like, I don't want to say a deep-rooted, but it's an external fix for an internal problem.
Yeah.
And so
that's why I was a tool. Because you'll learn, damn, where am I not showing up for others?
Yeah.
Where am I doing the one thing that like pisses me off the most?
Yeah.
Where am I doing that?
These fuckers wasting my time.
Yeah,
all
like,
right, where are you wasting other people's time or your own time?
Exactly. Or not valuing. One example I remember, we had a member that was like, she was clearing a charge on an ex-boyfriend, and she's like, I can't relate to this because he cheated on me and I've never cheated on somebody. And I remember, I think you were addressing the call and you're like, okay, let's look at it subjectively, just as cheating. Let's look at that. You may not have cheated on a person, but where have you cheated, like your time, for example? Like right now you're cheating on your business because you're on this call. And then I remember she had this huge aha moment, and she still talks about it to this day, where that was a huge shift for her. Because we'll look at things as just like ones and zeros, it's just like this, but when you just take a step back, you realize, okay, where else am I not showing up for, maybe if I'm not showing up for my clients, because we're multi-dimensional. When I say like we're a business owner, we're a parent, we're a spouse, then look at other areas of your life.
Yeah.
These are other dynamics that you're either not showing up as, or you're not present, or whatever the hell it is.
Yeah, it's the same attribute that can be applied to other areas. So
Exactly,
where am I? They cheated on me. I never cheated on somebody. And that's like this is why I don't just sell people the fucking tools.
Exactly, that's a perfect example.
Right, is because there's blind spots, especially if that's one of the first things you got into. There's blind spots which are caused by these fucking charges and stored experiences that cause us to go, there's no other alternative. And by the way, the number one intention of any being, and the hardest thing for any being is to admit they're wrong.
Yeah.
And everybody just wants to be. And so, as the saying goes, you can be right or you can be rich. And so, if you're going to need to be right about something, you're going to, especially the smarter you are, you're going to justify why this one is different. You can be right or you can be rich.
I love that, dude.
And so at the end of the day, how I've been, what clicked for me wasn't like an admission of I have problems. What was it for me, and anybody who I have watched go through this or something similar, is I'm like, I'm going to seek and destroy every last little fucking limiting anything in there. Just fucking go find that shit. I'm going to go find that shit. Because I'd be silly to say it wasn't there, because I'm a fucking human with a mind who's been through some shit. So is everyone, right? So to say it's like, no, I'm over that. It's like, no, you're not. If you look at your results and they're not what you want, that means you're doing stuff or not doing stuff that is leading to those results, which means you have thoughts and beliefs that are in there that need to be fucking changed. So you're not over it. You might not be actively going about it fucking constantly.
Oh, sure.
But that's how you know you're not over it, is you look at your results, because that's the only thing that can possibly fuel your results. So I look at it as not as I have problems and need fucking therapy. I'm looking at it as I'm pretty fucking good, but I know there's weights that are still holding on. I'm going to find every little last fucking one of them and cut them fucking out. And when you do that, you're literally releasing the weight of the mind and you're enlightening yourself. And so that is the concept of enlightenment. And so you can tie this in, and I try not to go too esoteric, but this ties into every single esoteric law of attraction, quantum physics, like it all is. This is my way of trying to simplify it all, but that's really what's happening. Is I want to seek and destroy everything that is holding me back from the biggest, most enlightened, evolved, powerful version of myself. Not, I have problems, you got fix them.
Yeah.
Like, that's fine. Either there's two roads in, but I would just, if you're watching this and you're just like, I don't got problems. It's like the people that, the bigger names that I've worked with and whatever, they didn't require convincing, but that was their viewpoint. Like when Brandon, Elliot, any of these guys, just like, yeah, man, let's go fucking find the shit, get rid of that shit.
Yeah.
And
I remember
was,
Brandon was all for it. Dude.
Oh yeah, yeah, he
hit that milestone like within a week.
Yeah,
right?
that's like all he did for fucking
Yeah.
That's like all he did for a week. I'm like, I don't know. Guy works out twice a day and he has for 40 years. So I guess you go to the mental gym twice a day. It makes sense.
Yeah,
It's of course for him.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then his business went from $250K a month to over $530K a month. Man. So that was over a 18-month span though. That was a nice gradual.
But I remember that first few months he had a huge jump.
Yeah.
Just by
not only that, there was expenses that we found from just infatuation spending.
Yeah.
You know, on flexing and shit.
Flexing.
It was 40 grand a month we found that was an average over the previous year of just unnecessary shit that like he could still like spend and flex.
Yeah.
It's just like the waste that was happening just due to I gotta flex this way and what have you. It just so that he's still flexing. You go follow him. I guarantee he's still flexing.
But that's one of those things that get a lot of entrepreneurs into a big pickle because they'll be like wanting to get revenue, but then they start to spend just as much as they made, and then at the end of the year, it's like, did you make profit? At the end of the day, so we have to address. I've had to address that so many times. What are you flexing for? Because that's just like a validation. Was it a resentment that maybe your mom didn't give it to you, or like an infatuation to be loved by all people? And that's usually like a fun kind of. That's what I love to do with them is like go down the rabbit hole with them.
Yeah.
But for the most part, it's we have to address like what is it? Because 40K a month, whether you can do it or not, like still like profit is the lifeblood of your business.
Yeah.
Right? So it's
profit is an efficiency metric, right?
Yeah,
it's how efficient is your business, right? So if you're doing $1 billion a fucking month, but you're taking home $1,000, that's a very inefficient business.
And imagine all the stress that you're carrying on for that.
And you have all this staff and whatever the fuck it is. That would be a crazy amount of expenses. But just to paint an extreme example. Right?
Sure.
Profit is an efficiency metric. And so it's a direct reflection, at least in this industry for sure. There's a direct correlation between how efficient your business runs and how efficient your mind runs. And your mind cannot run efficiently if it's got a bunch of shit in it.
Yeah.
Just like a car cannot run efficiently if there's a bunch of engine gunk. I use that analogy a lot. And so it's not about adding more nitrous oxide or a turbo fucking package or a new muffler, whatever it is.
Or new AI driving model.
Whatever. We got to fucking remove the engine gunk. We got to make the actual machine more efficient. And when we make the machine more efficient, the results become more efficient.
Yeah.
And you actually are able to accomplish the goals that you're setting out to accomplish, which is build wealth and have fucking freedom without all of this shit that the internets out there tell you fucking need. And they're installing infatuation charges of why, you're going to fear of missing out. Like all that's doing is telling you is they're literally adding social media ads. Everything is adding to your mind and it's making it less efficient, which is why you'll scale and be less efficient, more stressed, less profit, and you'll fucking wonder what happened. It's because your mind started inefficient in the first place, unless you've already done this work.
Yeah.
Then you added more to it and made it more inefficient, but you just kept pressing the gas pedal fucking harder. And so that's how you have a situation like my new client that we talked to yesterday gets to 150K a month, not taking home much, and just thinks he has all this staff and all this overhead and thinks the answer is more content. That was what we call inefficient fucking thinking. And so the question is not like what most people will do is just like, okay, cool, let's work on your content strategy. No, that's why you have all of these people in this industry that continue to regurgitate that and answer questions that they're asked. I get asked questions of, hey, hello, talking about my content strategy. You probably don't need one. I'll hear you out, but then I'm hearing for infatuation charges, fear charges, guilt charges, doubt charges, feeling judged charges, depression charge. I'm listening for these and I'm just like, all I'm hearing from you is fucking these. So clear those and let's just see if we need fucking content strategy after that. Prob's not. And like all the time. And so that becomes, it's a removal process. We got to make it efficient. And that's why I'm saying if you have a clear mind, you'll have clear profit 100%. Is because your mind is efficient. You'll make efficient decisions and you'll have an efficient business. So if you already have those results, you already have an efficient business, you're you're already making that profit. You're not stressing your ass off. You good?
Yeah, I was a note that I wanted.
Okay. Yeah, you're not stressing your ass off. Then that means you're taking the actions and not taking the actions that you shouldn't.
Yeah.
And you have the thoughts that lead to those actions or inactions, and that means your beliefs are supporting you. So if you already have the results, you don't need to do this.
Yeah.
But if you're not where you want to be and you know you're capable of more and you don't have those results, that means there's actions or inactions, thoughts and beliefs. And if you have no other way of rewiring those beliefs, best of fucking luck.
Oh, dude.
Because you're at risk of the next thing you see when you open your phone telling you need more content. You're at risk of going, yeah, fuck, dude, I totally do. I should buy that for 10 grand. And then they buy another program and you start accumulating. And it's the same shit that they fucking told you in the last content program that you bought that's free on YouTube. And you could have just asked ChatGPT about it. But that's not even it's a wrong diagnosis for the wrong fucking problem. And that's why you can buy all the how-to shit in the world, but until you fix the one driver of it all, you're fucked.
Dude, that's why I love. You are the source. You are the guy. You are the girl that you've been seeking. But you have so many. You wake up in the morning and first thing you go to stress or fear. It's like taking a shot. Cortisol, adrenaline. You're taking these shots.
Yeah.
And then of course, by the time you go to read your first email, you're already like 6 shots deep.
Yeah.
So of course you're going to be reactive or you're going to respond to everything. But that's what we're trying to address. We need to identify what is all this rooted in, like your goals and stuff like that. Because was that the goal, just to make the revenue to give it all up to taxes and expenses, or was it to be vast and abundant? So like we have to address, is it anchored in ego or is it anchored in what brings you to life, essentially, for lack of a better word? Or because I found many people that with that blind ambition is what I have to help them address that. Do you know why these are your goals? Is it because social media? Is it because of a hero of yours? Because there's more than one way, and that's what we have to like carve for everybody or help them shape is like, what does it look like to you? Because everybody's going to be different. Mine's work generally the same. I didn't care if they were making $5K a month or $5 million a month. They were dealing with the same shit, just different flavors kind of thing. All shit tastes, it still sucks. It still has a shitty taste. But to address it and to identify, could this guy that's making $5K a month, but his shit is super tight and he's everybody has their own level of success, whatever.
And also if that guy's fucking living in a place where 5K buys you a lifestyle.
Exactly.
But that's also, to be clear, this is why we only work with people doing over 20K a month at this point, is because anybody below that, what this does is not teach you the how-to mechanics of building a business.
Yeah.
This helps you apply what you've already got in a much more efficient, effective way. Just so, using the 5K example.
20K, 30K, it's just an analogy, right?
Yeah. Just for context for the listener.
Yeah, exactly. But that's where we have to address, what is it really for you? Let's put an identity to it so that we can address and then go and work towards that.
Yeah.
Because again, once an identity shift happens or it's taken from you, that's the biggest devastation. Like even
clear loss charge.
Yeah, clear loss
of identity.
There's fear. And I love how the tools, we can use the depression tool for depression, or you can use it for disappointments.
Yeah.
It's just crazy. It's interesting how the mind works that way, but the mechanisms are all there. If we don't have a way to prune the mind and then pull out the weeds and all the dead leaves and stuff like that, you imagine what heaping pile of shit that you got there, like just this big garden of weeds that you have there.
Yeah.
That's no wonder you're struggling to think clear, to have clarity in your life or whatever.
Yeah.
You're bogged down with all these weeds. So what we're just doing is pruning all this stuff because it is a regular, habitual, it's a routine. And it's not something that we just throw to the wayside and then we're good till the next symptoms come in and then we got to address it that way. It's like an apple a day kind of thing.
Yeah. I would argue that like it starts with pruning, but that bush shouldn't fucking be there in the first place.
And by pruning, like you're growing your flowers, but then the weeds are going to come and shit like that.
Sure.
So prune that shit. The unwanted charges.
Yeah.
Because then people let that grow and they just grows and grows and they're like, oh, I need to whatever, but I need to hire a new coach or I need to hire this thing. But if you were that person, imagine what your pain is doing for your craft.
Yeah.
Imagine what you don't need to hire another like Tony Robbins or whatever. Like your struggles are your coach because your mind is the one thing that you need to be working on. The struggles are there to teach you how to overcome them.
And think about it this way. If you go and hire another, let's say this guy went and hired a content coach.
Yeah.
He's still bringing the same belief system that creates inefficiency. So now he's going to create a content protocol for himself that is inefficient and it's going to create more stress. The guys, he rescheduled twice. So it was supposed to happen 3 weeks ago. ago, rescheduled. And so I'm busy and busy. I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? And I know what his universe looks like.
Yeah.
I know what he's doing.
Show me your habits.
He's doing a bunch of shit that he should not probably have in his business in the first place because he was afraid to niche down and say no to some business because people were waving money in his face, had infatuation on being a guy with a lot of views on social media, like all of these things. But you're either going to do all of that and burn out and eventually realize, oh yeah, that ain't it. And something like catastrophic is going to happen that makes you go, shit, maybe the problem's me. Or you catch it early, right?
Yeah.
And you get out ahead of the problem. The smart individuals, the efficiency is solving a problem before it happens.
Yeah.
And that's being able to forecast what a problem is going to be. And so when you start to not only clear your own shit and you start to understand the mechanics of what causes problems, you can really see down the line of, and I've done this with you too, like when you were about to buy that fucking house and we'll use all your liquidity as a down payment.
Dude, man.
I'm like, here's what's going to happen. You're going to do this, then that's going to happen, then this is going to happen, then this is going to happen. Your family's going to feel this way. You're going to feel this way, and then you're going to be here.
Yeah.
So do you want to be there? And you're like, no. I'm like, okay, so what do you think you should do? And you're like, I probably should not fucking do this. I'm like, smart move.
Huge infatuation,
right?
Too. Also an identity. Like I was like, oh, I need to do this, or because then I'll be or whatever.
It's a clear loss of status. Everybody's seeking status.
Amen.
Loss of status. Right? There's no such thing as loss of status, right? Everybody thinks there is. It's an illusion. That's a marketing tactic because we sell people on emotion, but you got to understand how the framework of the game works. And it actually makes you a better marketer because you are able to market objectively and understand, okay, if I push on that and I push on that way, this is going to happen. And I believe that I'm like personally, like this whole fucking video is us highlighting pain points and desire points of what happens when you clear the shit out of your mind. And so that is getting somebody's awareness up and it's getting them to see, damn, I'm pissed off about my existing results situation. So that's what I'm doing. But why am I, oh, you manipulator guy? It's the definition of manipulate is to handle skillfully. So how would you like to be handled? If your current results are shit or not where you know they could be, relatively speaking, then that means you're not handling things skillfully. You're not manipulating very well. And if you're going to hire somebody and all they're going to do is answer your questions from the lens of fear or infatuation of content creation, in this example, and they're going to help you install a new content protocol on top of all the inefficient bullshit, and you're going to waste money and a whole bunch of time. And the question you have to ask yourself is, are they handling you skillfully? What's the real thing that be handled? So I have a responsibility, I believe, and I believe we all do, to get our solutions in front of people that really need them. Just most of the time, we as consumers, because we're so fed these what I call social media propaganda. To a large degree, this video right here is propaganda. It's just designed to shift a belief system. That's all propaganda is. And so we have to understand the game and be the controllers of the game rather than being played. You're either the player of the game or playing the game, the creator of the game, or you're being played by the game. And if your results suck, they're not where you know they could be. It's because you're being played by the game and you're not handling yourself skillfully, and nobody is handling you skillfully. And so my intention is to try to guide to this realization, hopefully say, holy shit, I have no other fucking choice. This literally is the driver of my whole fucking life. And so it's like, why? Maybe I'll do it next week, next month, over the next 7 days, over the next 24 hours, over the next 10 minutes. You're going to be seeing things in a certain way through a certain lens. The results that you'll have by the end of the day watching this, the results that you'll have by the end of tomorrow are going to be dictated by your belief system, your thoughts, your actions or inactions, which will create the results. The question is, are you fine bringing the same belief system and thought system and actions or inactions that got you here? And are you confident that they're gonna fucking magically hold up from now into the future without doing anything that we just talked about? Are you confident in that strategy? If so, go for it. Hoping and guessing, I've found, is not a strategy. Hoping, oh, I realize that now. Yeah, I could totally consciously do. If this is not the first time that you've had that realization. You've known to consciously try to
Yeah.
control your thoughts for a fucking while. This is a reminder. Maybe you'd temporarily over the next 24 hours do a bit better,
Yeah.
but something's going to happen that's going to fucking have a swift kick to the nuts. And then you're going to go, and everything that's going to fire off is a result of things that have not been cleared that you're going to be bringing with you. So it's like when people are like, oh, I'm going to finish the program I'm in right now. And it's like, you're going to finish the program you're in right now with the current belief system that you have that has created results in the overwhelm that you're currently dealing with. This is what we call a drunk thought.
Yeah.
This is a mentally drunk thought. That's coming from fear of wasting the money on time on the program that I just bought, which is preventing me from doing the thing that I really need to do for myself, that I'm going to bring with me everywhere I go. It's an infatuation with that thing that you just bought. It's confirmation bias. It's being right. I need to be right about this thing that I just bought because I'm 4 months into it and I spent 20 grand on it, so I better make it work. That's an infatuation charge. It's a fear of loss.
Yeah.
It's a feeling of loss. And you're going to take that and you're going to drag it forward for another however many months. And it's not going to actually resolve the issue. In fact, you're ultimately going to find out that it's not going to do the result. The reason it's not is because your belief system is the same. That means your thoughts are the same. That means your actions or inactions are going to be the same. Even if you started a whole different new protocol, you're going to procrastinate on a new thing.
Yeah.
You're going to get distracted by a new thing. It's going to be the same thing in a different form. And so if you've bought shitloads of programs or whatever, and that keeps happening, it ain't the problem. So finishing what you're doing right now without addressing the engine, the driver, is do whatever you want. Obviously, I'm not your fucking dad, not your real dad. But at the end of the day, like at some point, it's either going to become a priority or you're just going to get fucking smoked by either yourself or the marketplace. It's just going to chew you up and spit you out. And so I don't want you to be sitting in another, I lost money on another program, it didn't work. Then you're going to resent the guy who sold you the program, or you're going to just completely be like, I can't do anything. I can't apply anything I ever do. All I do is buy programs that don't work for me. I need to stop doing everything. And now you'll just put yourself all the way down the fucking scale and you'll just be sitting, you got to clear a depression charge on programs not working out.
That's the worst feeling too. At that level of the scale.
Yeah.
Oh, man. I think right beneath is just death. Right?
Yeah.
So like you can't get any lower.
You can't get any fucking lower. Complete apathy.
Hey, but there's one thing I will say about when you do reach those depths that you had pointed out to me was when you hit rock bottom, like you have an aha moment, and that aha moment makes you want to.
You have an opportunity to have an aha moment.
It's true. You have the opportunity. And I remember one time I had a client, one of our clients which is very common. Like you want to prevent other people in your life because most people that are listening to this are coaches.
Yeah.
You know? And you had said to me, like, if they have this opportunity to have an aha moment, who am I to deny them that opportunity?
Yeah.
That will help them grow their
I do say like
income, power, all that.
100%. I'm like, maybe this needs to be another thing that you buy that you don't do anything with. And maybe it needs to get worse for you before you really realize it.
Yeah.
And that's totally fine. And as I guess probably a closing thought is you can only create to the degree that you're willing to destroy.
Yeah, I love it.
And most people are afraid to destroy. They're afraid to fire people. They're afraid to get rid of clients. They're afraid to niche down. They're afraid to get out of bad relationships. They're afraid to cut fucking programs that just aren't working. They're afraid to cut their losses. They're afraid to stop stuff, especially in the got to do more, take massive act. Like, so that's just an infatuation charge that's keeping them from cutting the things and they don't want to be wrong because now we got to have guilt charges if we're fucking wrong.
Yeah.
And so it's just this fucking mess of shit. And so ultimately, if you want to be able to create, you have to have the ability to destroy, and that is destroy old belief systems. And if you don't have the ability to confront those belief systems and you need to explain and justify to yourself why it's okay to have the belief set, why you're existing. I don't have the results. I'm stuck. I'm stressed. I have too much going on. I'm not making the profit that I know I am capable of making, but I'm going to keep moving forward because I think this is going to be the fucking one. That is like where most people in this industry live, and they're either going to go one of two places. They're either going to to that is going to be the thing. That usually not, okay? Or they're going to continue repeating that cycle until they realize that the grass is not greener on the other side. And then they're going to look inward. The question is, once they go, because there's all these people that preach inner work, got to do the inner work, got to do the inner work,
Yeah.
but nobody has a fucking system to do inner work.
Yeah.
Retreats, fucking ayahuasca, psilocybin, DMT, fucking meditation, breathing, ice baths, like band-aids on a broken leg. So to have a system to very systematically and logically rewire this stuff all the way down to its root and its core that's why we're fucking sitting here, is to hopefully at least one person watches us and they're like, oh my God, that makes sense. And then you see our fucking hundreds of testimonials of people going, holy shit, this absolutely changed everything for me. You got to be willing to create causative and realize that there's no other alternative. The other alternative is to hope it magically doesn't come up in your life anymore. Like that's the other option, is hope everything goes well and hope I remember to go, oh yeah, I'm cool now.
You know how powerful it is to, like, even when you do those things that you hope weren't coming, like when they do come in, you can just be like, who cares?
Yeah.
I can positively destroy you whatever. There's something so empowering about that. There's something so empowering to know I have the tools before I even open them.
Yeah.
That whenever I go through something, hey, I have a way to handle this. It's not going to go incessantly.
Yeah.
Like, that alone will sometimes clear a charge for me.
100%. Now I have a tool I can use.
And I'm no longer, my emotions are tools, but if you're not using them,
yeah,
then they're fucking using you.
Yeah. There was a guy I told you about this, was doing a talk on, I don't think it was a YouTube video, but I think it was like a live call. He was doing something about how important it is to like do the inner work, clear traumas, whatever shit we're talking about here. And went on for like an hour. And his student base, of course, he opens it for Q&A. Student base, first guy goes like, all right, so how? And he's like, there's a lot of different ways. He's like, how'd you do it? He goes, I went on what I call my trauma tour. And I traveled all around the world and repaired and cried with all the fucking people that I ever, all the way back to like high school and middle school, and repaired all these relationships. And I'm just like, that's your mechanism. So now all these motherfuckers got to go book tickets to fly all around the world and find people from back in the day. This is what people understand that it's important, but there's not other than what we've got, I have not found anything that's a workable, systematic, practical thing that somebody can do now, today, in 30 to 45 minutes that moves the needle as fast as this moves the needle. So I think, especially with AI, and as knowledge becomes more and more commoditized, it already is, all the how-to information's already there. You want a fucking content strategy, ask ChatGPT. It'll be better than any fucking program you buy. But what is not commoditized, and what won't be as long as humans are human, is clearing the fucking shit and getting yourself to a place to where you can think clearly and not get caught up into the chaos that is, when I say chaos, I just mean things are developing incredibly rapid speed in terms of AI, in terms of just societal expansion and change, and it's only going to geometrically get faster, as it already is. 3 years ago, AI didn't exist. Now it's generating everything. Holy shit. And that's just 3 fucking years. And so as long as humans are here, we're going to have to fucking think and be able to control and work with and communicate with these AI systems. Even right now, are your prompts based out of fear?
Yeah.
Are your prompts based out of infatuation? Because it will only respond to your inputs. And if your inputs are caused by fucking emotionally, mentally charged shit, and then its answers and interpretations, you're going to then interpret through that lens. That is not a recipe for good results. That's a recipe for overwhelm. That's a recipe for new, oh shit, it told me to do this thing. Now I got to do all this other work, but I'm not sure if I should. So maybe I should go ask this coach. Maybe I should go pay for this thing. And then maybe I should go back to AI. Let's check out what this guy on YouTube has to say about it. And before you know it, you've spent 12 hours on the subject and you're more confused, afraid, and doubting your fucking first thought than you ever thought you were. Oh, by the way, you neglected all this other shit that you needed to do to keep the fucking thing rolling while you were doing that. And now you feel guilty about that. And if that's not cleared, like, those people are just going to die a slow, maybe a fast death if they're lucky. And so I just say that because that's not to fearmonger, but that is, as I see it, that's like the only real edge that someone has moving forward, is how clear they're thinking and able to see through the shit. And if you're currently living in the shit, and then you just look at your results, if you're living in that, you can't see through your own shit, let alone all the other shit happening out there. And you're wondering why you feel heavy, low energy, not motivated, roller coastering, and doubting and fucking frustrated. I don't know of what alternatives there are aside from I hope that gets better out there. I hope maybe the program that you're finishing up is like the fucking answer to all of it.
Yeah.
So
I hope.
yeah, I don't know. Final thoughts from Albie Sabani.
Man, my favorite thing that you said today was you could either be right or you could be rich.
Yeah.
And you can come into a program like this, for example, and it's all about your intention. Is your intention to prove it wrong and that it doesn't work? Or is your intention to get the results and to be rich or whatever your goal is? That's the overall objective. For me, that's it. Like, I don't need extra things to add. I want to just continue to remove. I'm just in this process of still just elimination. And of course, I'm going to have other things that will pop up into my universe of shiny objects and stuff like that. But it's just as a reminder, like really anything you need to learn, you could go to YouTube or ChatGPT, like that's all there. Right?
Yeah.
But you're not going to be able to, ChatGPT's not going to be able to clear your charges for you or clear your balance, your perception, because you still have to take that and integrate it into your personality, your personal reality. Yeah. For anybody that's ever had or been curious about it, like this is it. This out of hundreds and pretty close to 1,000 people, this has been like where I've seen the biggest growth come. Again, whether you're making 5K a month, 5 million a month, we all have the same bullshit. We all have the same mechanisms. So it's not like a mystery how to correct it. The mechanism is still there, but are you addressing it? Are you showing up to the mental gym? Are you clearing your own gunk, or are you giving it to your loved ones? Because it does. It's that ticking time bomb. Yeah. It could be a trigger. And do you want to causatively control that, or do you want to then repair all the damage afterwards? So it's an apple a day kind of thing. You want to spend 15, 20 minutes and you address it now so that when you go into the world, you're just like less. Yeah, it's just like a cup too full. It's going to spill. Or you can remove some from the top and then you can go about the day and you're full and replenished. You're not seeking. You become that cause over your life, or you're just going to default into the randomness of the world, the randomness of life. Something's going to bump into you and then woe is me, like I'm the victim. You know, that you can't change anything if you're a victim, and you can't change anything if you're not willing to do the work that's now that we've given to you. Pretty much, if this is new to you, moving forward, that's the bitter pill. You have to do something about it. Yeah. And thankfully we have, I've never found anything easier than this that I can integrate into my person.
Simpler, maybe not easier, because it's not always easy, but it is simple.
Yeah, easy, like it's simple to integrate into the nuts and bolts. Yeah. I can do this. Because then, of course, the difficult part is the right brain, the emotional, you know, the aspect, coming to terms with things. But I will say, whether you call it a miracle or you call it law of attraction or you call it just manifestation, whatever, some of the stuff that I've personally created or seen other members create is beyond words and is beyond identity or beyond explaining with just like our clumsy vocabulary. You know? And that's the realm that we've systemized into a way of taking a scoop out of the ether and like putting it into a system that we can easily knock it out and go about our day and then like just rinse and repeat. It doesn't get any easier than that.
Yeah. If you can answer questions, you can clear your mind. And a clear mind is a clear profit in your business. And my hope is that you got some value from this video. And if you want to learn more, I'm sure there's a link somewhere around this video. Albie, I look forward to the next. We're just getting started. We're on chapter motherfucking 1 here, bro.
It's wild.
If you want to check out this book, I'm sure there's a link in the description as well. And we're going to clean up all the shit in this industry and mental shit in this industry. And I'm excited for what's to come when I think everybody else is freaking out over economic and crowded fucking more competition and how do I stand out. So first of all, those are fear-based thoughts that can be cleared. And it's really the only sustainable edge. And I'm really excited for those who go through this process and go on this journey. And it really is a rabbit hole that it only keeps expanding my view of life, business, the universe, you name it, every single day. And just watching other guys and other people go through these processes and hearing their experiences and their stories is damn, like
it's so rewarding.
This is great
to watch them like finally living and realize they're living their dream life. Because I think one thing is that people will push like the goal, but to live for the future is an indefinite postponement of life. And when I get to see them finally be present, like that's where I know I did something right.
Yeah. And magically the business starts to fucking do better when you do that shit. It's fucking crazy. I love it, dude. Appreciate you.
For sure. Boom. Here's to the next several chapters.
Next several centuries.
Yeah, exactly. There we go, baby.
Good shit.
Love it, dude.